Jessica said that somebody was very talkative. And blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Also, do all the people pop up on the screen? Or?
Yeah, you'll have to admit them. See at the very top it says admit. Which
It's a bit early.
it's a bit early now, yeah.
Do you have that page that we gave to the students?
Yeah. I can walk at the same time. It's just painful. This is going to be a fun class today. You got a lot to talk about. Do you know how to change these clocks?
I think they're with the remote.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a white remote. The remote. The remote.
This stand is pretty awesome, isn't it?
It's okay. I mean, it's much better than our setup before. How's the day?
Pretty quiet.
Is there feedback from people who already use the website?
I haven't logged everybody in yet, so I'm going to do that tonight. Because we had told them Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Well, all the
Social variety is up. I saw that. That's awesome.
Still working on the other ones.
On some of the syllabus ones.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But we have a message that we'll keep adding things as
Yeah.
the month goes along, just in general as the year.
Let me turn that down there.
I don't need it, so.
Then do what?
Right now, I don't. That's the purifier thing.
You want you to wear your mask, obviously.
Yeah, but here. Right. Because I'm talking more.
Yeah. This is Marie. Yeah, it mutes them automatically.
Howdy.
Hello! And then they can unmute themselves.
Oh. Hello! There's Gail. Gail's iPad.
Last time she was in there with Rodka.
Uh-huh.
Just now, just now.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, makes sense?
Yeah, will I be able to see everyone?
You can.
He didn't eat again. Neither did she.
That brings up everybody. If you want to take it to where it's just you.
I don't know. Other people.
Well, okay.
Because if somebody speaks, I wanna...
So you can go back and forth between gallery view and speaker view.
Sure.
So.
Speaker is just going to show me who's speaking.
It'll default to the person who's talking.
But still everybody's on the screen.
Yes.
Nice. Great.
Why don't I hang around for a couple minutes while you're getting started, just in case.
It's 45 minutes?
Yeah, because I have to teach a class at 7.
Yes. But it's 45.
Yes.
Yeah, if you can somehow find out about Lynn.
Yeah.
I mean, if she's here, it's not polite to ask.
So a lot of times people will realize that they're making a lot of noise. So somebody individually, all you have to do is just hover over the quick mute.
How would I know who's making noise?
Sometimes it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
They've used it a lot at work and somehow automatically mute themselves like Marie does. So people who are doing this every day, they already know to do that.
They took them all in. I said, come here, River. Can you leave them outside in stream light?
Otherwise, it would not make sense to have them.
Right. And then put flowers on.
What are you drinking?
Then they have to have some function, otherwise it would be like, why are they there this way?
Marie, what are you drinking?
Hey, Marie. What are you drinking? Is that a healthy drink?
Kombucha.
Kombucha. What is kombucha?
It's fermented tea.
Ah, okay. All right, well, there you go. You typed it in. That's nice.
I brought for the dinner then part of the meatloaf and some potatoes and nothing else. I know I was into carbs.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
I guess we should start.
Yeah. They look like they're all ready to learn, Mr. Slava.
All right, so I'm gonna wear a mask while Matt is here helping me out to oversee that everything is running fine, and then he's gonna leave and I'm gonna take off my mask. Just to let you know. So how is everybody doing? Good? Radka, hello?
Oh, they're muted. I muted them.
Yeah. All right. So basically everyone had their, in their folder, you had basically the full, and the partial workshop information that you got on the day of, and then you had the full. So did you guys go through it, the information that you had in your folder?
Yes.
Yes.
No? Okay, yes. All right. So let's go back and talk about the things that we did in the class, just as a reminder. Thank you, Matt.
Mhm.
So what we did is we were talking about the Laban method of movement, which is widely used in medical fields, in acting and dancing around the world. There is also Laban Institute in New York City. So basically the idea behind that analysis is to study the movement of people, right? To analyze it, record it, and then have it as a useful tool to, let's say, do physical therapy. It is very useful in dance widely, in acting as well, and as well it's used in athletes. So what we did, I chose 3 of the 8 efforts that are in our body. So this is what we did in the class, which all of you were. And so that we did the slashing, we did the gliding, and then we did the and we did ringing, right? So basically what it is how did you feel about that? Now that you have a way to communicate with me, probably something very new, very unusual that you haven't experienced before. Do you have any questions about it? What we did in the class, and also I'm gonna elaborate on the other, obviously, hi Lynn.
Hi.
So obviously I'm gonna elaborate on the other 5, and I'm gonna show you also how they are opposites or they're extremely similar, but there's one aspect of their definitions that is different, so that you can find the differences, because they might feel very similar on paper. So do you have any questions, any feedback after you went home, after you had some dancing after that? Did you ever think about that later? So feel free to elaborate, or if you have a question.
Hi, this is Marie. It was very interesting. I thought it was fascinating, but I just didn't know what to do with it. Like how to apply it, when to apply it.
Yes.
I have no idea. Of course, I'm a beginning dancer, so I don't know.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how many advanced dancers don't even know about that system. So that's quite a unique approach. And it's quite debated around the world in the dance schools. Some schools readily apply it and have an amazing effect, you know, and some schools that are much more classical, they don't like using it. So it's it's a newer way of thinking about movement of the human body. So, okay, so you have a question about application. Okay, so I'm going to answer that. Any other questions, so that I can sort of balance my time and make sure that everybody's questions get answered? Everybody's just willing to listen. So the application of it, okay. So first, let's talk about what is very important is that, you know, the 8 efforts, I'm going to list them out. I don't know if you have the paper in front of you. So I'm going to start at the top. So, you know, it's punch, slash, we covered, a dab. I had to learn that word, what it truly means in English, because the English is not my first language, but I'm sure you know. My teacher used to say, especially with my partner and my wife, Jessica, is like you putting powder on your face. Am I correct? It's like you're dabbing something, right? Usually has a rebound action, so, right? Then we have a flick. We have a press, right? We have the ring that we covered. We have a glide. And then we have a float, right? So I'm just gonna ask you just to very basically giving an example, and I want you to do it. It's very easy to just do it with your hand at first, right? So we're gonna punch, we're gonna slash, right? We're gonna dab, but what I want you to try is I want you to try a little bit of a lunging. So you're gonna lunge into your leg and lunge away. So you're gonna lunge out, okay? So we have flick, which is, let's say if you have a crumb on a table and you wanna, you know, move it away. So you're flicking it away, right? So a press, usually you have a pressing, so you can press your chest. So that we use the closest thing possible, or press your head. Press against your head, press against your arm. You have a glide. So usually we associate, like we said in the workshop, we usually, because of the day we live now, we think about gliding in airplanes, gliders, right? So something, a parachute, a delta planner, you know, something that is consistently moving through air. But also, you know, this is a gliding action as well. So I glide, right? Or let's say if you think about Roomba, you know, and how you move your feet consistently in the room, they are gliding. And then a float, also we usually think about boats, right? Waves and things like that, sort of a you know, kind of this feeling. But also you can think about if you're spraying with something, you know, you do this, right? Right? Just to give you other than the first sort of instinct that you have to use. So basically why we do that is because we want to give at least 3, there's 4 definitions, there's the 4th one is mentioned in some of your papers. We want to identify those movements in relation to space, right? In relation to weight, like whether it's heavy and light and strong. And then we want to identify them as time, right? So for example, when we think about, let's say in relation to dance and the movement, right? We want to start thinking about how do I apply it, right? So basically, usually the first application is in relation to what's called body parts, right? So we have body parts, we have my head also can move. So I can basically do all the movements that we described, those 8 movements with my head. I can do those 8 movements with my hands. I can do those 8 movements with my legs. I can do those 8 movements with my foot, right? So I can do it with my leg. I can also do it further away with my foot, right? So those are, you know, the basic body parts. So let's take, you know, something that we can apply it with. I'm sure, is everybody familiar with the box step, right? In Rumba specifically, let's take Rumba, right? Everybody's familiar with that. So once we have learned, okay, we have learned the timing according to dance. It's a quick, quick, slow. So if we dance right foot back, most of you are followers. We dance slow, and then we dance quick, quick, slow, quick, quick. So this usually is applied to weight change and you know, movement of the feet. This is how we kind of think about it, right? So basically, the slow and the quick and the description of ballroom dancing refers to music. It does not really refer to, and this is where it's interesting, to your actual speed of movement, right? because, for example, I can move my right foot back. The timing is slow. So what it means is that the action should be completed within 2 beats of the rumba music. So I have 2 beats. But I can, let's say, I can punch my foot back. So I'm going to punch my foot back, and that's only my leg. So this is a punch, and a punch, and so I'm punching back. Then I am going to glide my body to complete the step. Does that make sense? So let's say in perspective of time, hi Audrey.
Hi.
In perspective of time, I did complete my step within the 2 beats, but actually my leg movement, if we take a look at punch, my leg movement that went back with my right foot was very direct, strong, and sudden. And then my body weight arriving on that foot, let's say I use this time glide, was also direct, but it was light and sustained. So then, as you can see, that dancing has it can be broken down and depends on which element of the movement you're looking at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as you can see that once I have my foot back quite intensely, I choose punch right now. So I place my foot, this is 1, and then I glide on 2. So therefore, that is a slow. Do you see that? So that's in relation to application. And that's just the foot, right? It's because in dance, we really don't, in ballroom dancing, we don't have, nowhere in the information is written on basically how you achieve those things. Like, okay, I have a heel lead, but did I flick my foot or did I glide my foot to create the heel lead, right? So let's say, for example, in tango, you have heel leads, right? Everybody knows that?
Right.
Yes? Yes?
Yes.
And in waltz, you have heel leads. But for example, with the information that I have right here, my heel lead in tango is definitely going to be a flick, yes? Rather than my heel lead in waltz, I might feel a float, right? A float is indirect, it's light and continuous, right? Or I can choose to glide, yes? Because let's say, you know, if I have a figure that is very clearly going straight, so I don't have any turn, so I definitely will glide my heel lead in that direction. So if we do this, so imagine that's your foot, yes? So this is my glide into my heel lead going forward. So I'm gonna do it with, this is my gliding. So this is and 1, right? So this would be the waltz heel lead. And then this will be, let's say, a quick in tango. There is the, so my heel lead, well, as you probably saw, maybe I'm small on your screen, but definitely in my tango, I really flicked my foot very quickly within a second, right? So do you start seeing that? And this is just putting that information in my foot. But that definitely, that gives me also a language to communicate. Meaning that, let's say my teacher says, well, yes, you are slow, so you're doing slow, 1, 2, taking your heel lead in tango, but it doesn't look, let's say, so I actually use that in some of the descriptions that I gave you as suggestions is I'm looking for the word. Characteristics of the dance, right? So let's say most of you did all of your heel leads, you knew your footwork, but the character. So as you can see, this system can make you give a physical and an emotional content through how you use your body. So then when you experience your own dancing or you are being looked at by other dancers, then they can understand the story behind it.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
Does that start to make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
So as you can see, pretty much all of the components, flow is debatable. That's the fourth component. In England, they don't use the same type of explanation like in the United States. But the most important ones from the Laban method are the space, so whether it's direct or indirect, the weight, the strength of it, of the movement, and whether it was sudden or very quick, suddenly, or whether it's a sustained, right? So for example, let's take a different part of your body. So we talked about heel leads in relation to standard and smooth, and we talked about the box step and rumba to cover those of you who are interested in the application and rhythm and Latin. But now let's talk about, for example, the body inside. So in the rhythm dances and the Latin American dances, as you know, some of you know, let me know if you're not familiar with that, but you have something called the Cuban motion, right?
Right.
So that's the settling of the hip bone over each transfer of weight, right? So as you know, in a rumba, it's quite slow, sustained, and fluid. So I'm gonna ask you to, if you just put your hands over here, and then you open your legs shoulder width, and then I would ask you to transfer your weight on one foot, right? So we're transferring weight from one foot to the other, right? And I want you to relax at the very end. So you're not gonna tone and try to be vertical, but I want you to relax like as if you're waiting for something for a while, and you have the hands on your waist, and then you're like tapping with your foot, waiting for something. So this is a natural way of us, what's called resting on our bone system, right? So we're not toned and trying to keep balance, but we're resting. So when we do that action from foot to foot, sideways, that creates a very nice, it's called the pendulum swing of the hip, right? So, and this is basically the Cuban motion. When we have this movement of our hip. So basically, this is something that we usually don't think about, but I'm just going to give you that idea that, let's say in the rumba, because it is a nice romantic dance, it's continuous and slow, what we're going to do is, let's say that we're going to use float, right? Partially because float is mostly being used in a curved movement. So what do we have here? So we have an indirect, light, and sustained. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to count to, let's say, 4. And we're going to start on one side, and we're going to go transfer weight and move your hip for 1, 2, 3, 4. So that will be continuous, sustained, right? So I did 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was a continuous light. It's very easy to do, and sustain. And it's indirect because it has a natural curve to it, right? So you don't have an expectation that I'm going to be exactly 3 feet from the floor or 2.5. So you're allowing your hip to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So no part of it was faster than the other one. And let's say Now, because you're aware that in cha-cha as well, you have the same Cuban motion, right? So, but the one thing that is different in cha-cha, it's faster, it's sharper, and if I am doing, you know, one on cha-cha or cha-cha-cha, and I do this continuous sort of a slow movement, then somebody might say that I am not characterizing the dance quite well, because the sense of the expectation of the music, 1, 2, 3, cha-cha, 1, 2, 3, cha-cha, 1. I might have moved my feet, so I'm on time, I am on balance, I know my pattern, but in relation to my interpretation, my personal interpretation of my hip motion and the Cuban motion in the hips, I am not really representing the dance very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, let's say, if I'm thinking and working with this idea, I can do two things. Let's say I can do a flick, which is indirect, light, and sudden, right? So this would be, you know, so I have my hands here. This would be cha-cha 1. So right away, it was sudden, it was indirect because it's a curved, and it was light, right? So I did cha-cha 1, and now I go the other way, cha-cha light, and I flick my hip. So I feel that my hip bone moved cha-cha, flick to the side, 2, 3, cha-cha, and flick to the side, 2, 3. So now if somebody looks at this and without sound, and then they would say, well, probably Slava's, I mean, I hope that Slava's hip action or his student's hip action looks very appropriate, looks very characteristic of the dance. But as you can see, I use the definitions to describe how I want to do it. Now, obviously, that's an artistic choice, because what I can choose also is slashing. So the slashing compared to the flick is still indirect. It is strong, so it's heavy and sudden. Now, if I am on a party, let's say, I wouldn't do that. I would stay with the light, right? I don't want to make it too hard and too heavy. But let's say on a performance, when I would like to be more visible, more clean and clear and very precise, I would like to maybe make it a big effort in my leg and to stabilize. So I would go for and heavy, right? So I tone very much in my muscle and then continue. So as you can see, it still uses the same structure, so it's still indirect, so that I can have my hips free flow in a curved manner, right? But at the same time, I make it stronger, more intent, meaning that I want to be very precise. Lightness has a tendency to not be so clear. So I think that, for example, in the application, like you were asking for cha-cha, I would definitely train with the level of that I would actually do a slash in my hips, very precise, you know, very strong. And then maybe when I dance casually cha-cha, you know, and I'm having a conversation on a party or something like that, then I would not try to be so physically strong, because I will probably dance 5, 6 cha-chas and a bunch of waltzes and a bunch of tangos. So I don't want to give all of my energy in that one dance. Does that make sense? So you can see that it's quite easy to see those things in your hands, right? Because we're quite precise, we can look at them. But then I right now gave you an idea about your, let's say, hip movement, right? Because sometimes we definitely can identify it and make it a very visual, that definitely our hip movement is being quite clearly thought of. And also I experience, because of the level of energy, this is very important in the Laban method, is that when, and this is the interesting part specifically to me, is when I give myself the effort, it definitely creates a type of mood in me, right? So if I am going strong and I go cha-cha, 1, 2, 3, cha-cha, 1, 2, 3, then my face, my abs, everything starts to work in a slightly different way. So which also Laban references that once you make a decision about a specific body part, because we're all connected, you know, then there is other things happen. It's not only that my right hip experiences something, it's my left hip, my right leg underneath tends to what's called support the movement. My rib cage gets a little bit more compact, because if I'm trying to be strong, precise, and sudden, I want to be able to stop. So all my muscles, including my head, you know, start to participate to support a decision that I've made about my hips, right? As you can see, my hands, my fingers, I feel energy in the inside of my thigh. So just making that decision of how you're going to move in a sense of a type of effort, you know, it kind of it creates this sort of a support mechanism. And usually, that's kind of a focal point of a figure. Let's say I am practicing, I'm thinking about my cha-cha basic, I'm going to do my Cuban motion, both to the right and to the left on the two sides. I am deciding to do a slashing action. So then after that, obviously I'm not going to do a slashing action on the forward step, and then a bunch of other types of very precise things about the surrounding movements. Because once I have done a slashing action to the right here, now I'm doing relaxed, and now I'm getting ready. Also, there's a sense of preparation in your body. So once I'm deciding that right here, I'm going to do a slashing action, there's things that prepare me, because I've made a clear decision this is going to be a slash, of how my previous foot is being used. Also, I don't want to be off balance. So internally, I get charged because I really want to do a slashing action, which is indirect, strong, and sudden. Does that make sense? Like if you think about your daily activity, if you want to throw something in the garbage, you take it, and because you want to throw it right there, now you move your arm back a certain amount, and depending on the weight of the object, you put different effort to the action. Like we do that naturally, right? But you have actually made a decision that you're going to throw this object in the garbage can is right there. So then the weight and you know, and then you're flicking it, right? So you're flicking it. So that's a very specific. Like we're thinking, oh, throwing is different. No, it's like this is actually a flicking action that you do when you throw things. So all of the body movements that the body does can be described through those 8 efforts. Does that make sense? So it's very also easy way to communicate about how you're doing a specific thing. So you give them a coloring, you know, the same action done in different, and you will naturally find that certain actions don't belong. In theory, you know, people like Laban or very advanced dancers, they will attempt to do the same action, let's say in whatever they're doing, 8 different ways to see, and right away you would probably feel that 4 they're not even close. So now I have this 4. This kind of feels a little bit better. This gives me this type of a feeling when I do it. Definitely the other one, like we discussed right now, when we did the float versus the slash. The only difference is the speed. So then I definitely want it a little bit faster. So then that leads me to an answer. There is really no right answer. It really depends on the effect that you want to achieve with your movement. Does that make sense now? So basically how I would go about it myself first, and then I'll make some suggestions for you guys, is I will, let's say, pick one action. Let's say ring, like we talked about ring. And I will then start dancing my rumba. And I will be like, okay, so I'm gonna do followers. So here I ring, then I ring. Okay, this feels good. Now I'm gonna do a crossover. I make sure I ring my body. Yes, when I do my crossover. Okay, this feels good. So ring has the 2 opposites. So I'm definitely gonna use my leg and my head, and I'm gonna ring my body, and that will create that turn. A lot of times people ask me, how do you turn? Right? So usually I ring and release in my body. That's, for example, you know, how you want to do that. So then I would see, you know, where ringing comes in, and then I'll, let's say, maybe go through the same rumba, and I'll be thinking about my feet. So I'm gonna be like, okay, well, let's see if glide works. So I'm gonna think about my feet, and then my feet are gliding. Okay, so it seems like gliding works for forward and back because it's slow. My feet are gliding. But on the quick, I cannot use it because it doesn't represent the speed change on a quick. So we have slow, quick. So then I'm going to say, okay, I'm definitely going to use the glide in my slow, in my box. And then let me see if I can then use punch, which is direct, strong, and sudden on my quicks. So I go, basically I'm saying it. I'm gliding, punch, gliding, punch, gliding, punch, gliding, punch. Because I want to put my feet quick, right? So that works. As you can see, it already, then it has its own rhythm because gliding and then punch, gliding, punch. And then I can put it in relation to music as far as the time of it. But they're definitely, this is consistent and a sustained light, direct, light, and sustained, my slow, and then my punch is punch. And if the music is quick, I can punch. You know, it depends, you know, whether I'm doing East Coast swing or I'm doing rumba. So they're all 4/4 count, but one is faster than the other. Do you see how I apply this? And you can apply it to your arms as well. If you have, let's say, open rumba walk. Yes. So I have my left hand is free. I have my side together, and I have slow, quick, slow. So the first step, usually your teacher will ask, well, you have to put your hand to the side. So that's a good start. So now I know that my hand is to the side. But because I'm doing floating in my body, like we said about the Cuban motion, also I might want to use floating in my arm. So now, as you can see, all my body parts represent the rumba. Yes? So I can, let me show it here. So if I've chosen to do floating in my rumba, I'm floating, and now I'm floating in my hands as well, right? So I go slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, right? So it's floating here. So this is a cross floating, floating. And also I'm floating this way with my hips. So it's this way floating, floating. So that will be the hips. So I have the vertical and horizontal. Do you see? So once we learn the mechanics, and you talk with your teachers about the mechanics of the movement. So we're gonna use the hip, we're gonna use it as, you know, we put the weight on the one foot, and then your hip will then naturally relax if you let it go. And so that's the mechanics of it. And then you give it an effort, right? You can do it slashing hip action, you can do floating hip action, and then that will then suit then the different dances, for example. And this is sort of how I would go about it. Do you see? And also floating, if I think about floating in my arms, I naturally go, oh, that feels good. So you have a natural mood to it, right? So if I'm floating in my arms, floating in my body, and slow, this feels good, it's light, it's indirect, and it's sustained. Yes? So this is where, you know, certain types of actors and certain schools, they like to do a physical action that will get them in the mood for that specific role and the scene that they have. Like, for example, if somebody wants to project tense and they're really happy, I mean, they just left home, came to work, now they're going to be filmed, and they're a really tense person, so their natural state is not there. So what they will do is to get themselves in a state of how it feels is they will start wringing their arms, they're twisting their arms. Now there's tension, you know, and while I'm doing that and it's difficult, then I start getting my natural, it feels hard, you know. So the physical doing of that action then starts to get into your body, and then, you know, and then vice versa. If you want to relax, you want to go deep, sustained breath, light, you know, and then you can relax yourself. But what are you actually doing in your body is your lungs and your muscles continuously expand and contract. So that's also actual physical activity that has a definition. If you breathe in a dabbing, direct, light, and sudden, and then you get a different result. I'm still breathing, but I breathe differently. Therefore, it has a different effect. But it's still a physical activity. Yes. Any sort of final questions? Now, how you can go about it, obviously, if you are really interested, you can have your teacher, you know, and talk about it with them. And then, of course, if you really need to focus on that, then you can have a coaching with me, because I've definitely spent quite a lot of time studying. We have used it with Jessica for many years. Some of my students know about it a little bit. And this is obviously in a sort of a workshop, you know, form. I cannot see you try and see you do it and things like that. But definitely you will have a very big self-awareness. If you have this in front of you, you know, and the chart of it, and then you just commit to what you think is suitable, I don't think that you will ever be wrong. I think because these are all very, very natural to a human body actions, you will definitely feel when you're slashing for real, or you're like, oh, I'm slashing, right? So that's definitely not. You can tell right away. I'm not slashing. I might hold a sword, but I definitely don't slash with it. So your natural body, if you really commit to ringing, yes. So I'm just gonna take my arms here so that you can see. I have my feet stable, and I'm ringing my body to the left. Oh, I definitely feel that I'm ringing. It just feels throughout your body. Yes. And you wanna in the ringing, you wanna definitely stretching is a type of ringing, and if you use it at a continuous form, this is always very, very, very important. Actually, I want to make sure that you don't skip it. Always when you apply it to your body, apply it in a current continuous form. So I am currently ringing continuously. I am doing it. It's not about having done it in the past or going to do it in the future. So I am currently doing it. So if I'm slashing, I am slashing now. So I don't think, I wish I could slash better, right? I am slashing. So I fully commit with my hand, or like we said in the workshop, a lot of dances use what's called a ronding action, right? So all that ronding means is that your foot goes around the other foot. So how, if you slash, very suitable action for a rondé in a fast dance, then you definitely are gonna do the rondé, but also it's going to have a sense of emotion attached to it, because it was very, so a slash, it was very indirect because it didn't stop anywhere along the way. It was very strong and sudden. So definitely it gives it a color. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that is very suitable for you guys? I mean, there's all kinds of people here on different levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
You can tell that this is a very easy way to communicate, right?
Right.
So it's not about, oh, I want to do it better, right? Better doesn't have a very description about movement. So when you do the better part, or how is it going to be better? Well, you know, if I do it as a punching action, I'm definitely going to be very fast and strong. If I do the same thing as a different, you know, as one of those 8 actions, then it will have different characteristics. So this is very important, why I like also talking about this in a school. It is very common as we progress to dance that we just think about, oh, I just want to get better. But that's not very specific. So this definitely gives you a very specific way, because a lot of you do the same figures, right? But the different choices you might make that might make you a unique dancer. You know, somebody very, very light might choose some of the light, they're all 4 light actions. And same figure, somebody else, they like to feel very strong, and they will do the same figure but with the strength, and that will give their feeling for their dance, and also it will be very clear in a sense of projecting your dance to others. They'll say, well, that's a very stable, strong dancer. oh, that's a very light dancer. So obviously that gives you that extra bit of emotion, and it definitely it makes you full of energy in a way that you put a different effort just in the same figures. You know, a box step can be done in so many different ways, and can be equally fulfilling. But when there is no effort, in a sense of that, when there is no definition of that action and effort, then there's always something missing in my body, that when I dance, I personally don't feel that the movement gives me something as far as artistry, creativity, and things like that. And also maybe people dancing with me, my partner, or people in the audience, for example, they will say that definitely I look like I'm not very focused. So it's like as if I'm not there.
Oh.
Yeah, because I'm busy thinking about other things, right? So this is my teacher who I learned it from. It's definitely very easy for him specifically, to identify dancers who are into their body. That's where Jessica's preparation comes in. So you don't want to be just randomly off, you know, I just did something else, I'm going to be slashing in my tango. So it definitely takes that preparation to feel the body part that you're working with. So if that's my feet, I warm up my feet. Now I'm very aware about my feet. Now I can give them a definition, right? So this is where I think also Jessica's part comes in, is quite important. And definitely once you are into your feet, a very useful thing before I finish is if you say it inside yourself, okay, I'm punching, I'm slashing. Now on the level that we do it, you know, we practice and we yell it out, actually. So that's very interesting. That was a very, very big eye-opening thing where you're in the middle of a 100 people workshop, and the teacher says, Slava, you come in the center. Okay, I want you to punch. And then you're like, you know, there's 100 people watching, and you're like, it's like, oh, okay, is that your punch? Is that the best you can do? And then by saying it, by, you know, breathing it, because if I say it, I have to take a breath. Each movement has a breath, and, you know, the effort that comes with it. And then once you do it, and everybody believes you, like, you know, Slava is punching this invisible ghost that weighs 200 pounds because he put his whole body into it. Punch! And definitely that's believable. So same thing in ballroom dancing, in smooth, in standard. We've talked to some people about their promenade, you know, because usually the promenade, the feeling in tango is like, oh, well, that doesn't, yeah, promenade. So definitely, you know, infusing your promenade, one of those actions can change it night and day. Because promenade is used in waltz as well. So you dance tango and you do a floating action into your promenade. It's definitely a waltzy promenade. It's nice and continuous and smooth. So was that interesting? Everybody's just nodding their head. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
That was good.
Interesting.
Do you think you're gonna apply it right away?
Try. Yeah.
You can
Sure.
convince somebody. Like I've done that on purpose in a store, because my teacher wanted me to do that. That you're really mad. So I rub my hands. All right, let's see if I. And they asked me, "Did you find everything okay?" And I'm like, "No." And they were like, "Whoop." But this is, you know, on a high, you know, as professionals, we kind of have to do that. So it's very useful. And in the same time, in a tough situation, then I'll be like, you know, gliding. That is so nice. Everybody around me is worried, and yeah. Anyway, that was great. I love this stuff, as you can see. Probably says, shut up, Slava, I have to go cook some dinner. But I definitely am very aware of it. I love this. This was an eye-opening for me in my dancing. For many years, I didn't have that information. And once we had that information, it was definitely a complete difference, massive difference. And so I hope it works for you. And as you know, we'll continue having those workshops very often. Everybody was very, very happy with them, the format, the dancing, the information. And I definitely will keep going in that direction. So then you can have a follow through on things, and then you can start achieving them. All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I'll see you very soon in the studio.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Thank you.
Bye.